So Chairman Fred Ridley said the following. He said, following the successful conduct of the Masters tournament last November, with only essential personnel, we are confident in our ability to responsibly invite a limited number of patrons to Augusta National in April. As with the November Masters, we will implement practices and policies that will protect the health and safety of everyone in attendance. Nothing is or will be more important than the well-being of all involved. While we are disappointed that we will be unable to accommodate a full complement of patrons this year, we will continue our efforts to ensure that all who purchase tickets from Augusta National will have access in 2022, provided conditions improve. So with that, let's bring in our panel. We've got Jaime Diaz, Trip Eisenhower, Paige McKenzie, and Jimmy Roberts. Jaime, coming to you first, my friend. This feels like good news. What's your reaction this afternoon?
Well, it is good news in the sense that it could have been a worst-case scenario, and it's not. But, you know, it shows that while golf will be more normal in 2021, it's going to still be far from normal. And I think it will have a ripple effect. Chances are that, you know, in 2 months after the Masters, the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines probably won't be able to handle, you know, a full complement of gallery, so to speak. I think other tournaments are going to follow suit, take this as a signal. It's almost national news in the sense that it's, you know, there's so influential at Augusta that people are going to pay attention to this and look at it as a marker that whatever optimism for the vaccine, we may have to temper it slightly as people were hoping for early spring and you know, a sense of coming back to business as usual. That's probably not going to happen, and it probably wasn't going to happen, but to have it formalized by Augusta National, I think, puts a stamp of authority on it. But overall, yes, you know, we're going to see a Masters with more spectators, and that's good news.
Well, I mean, you go back to 2020, there were naysayers around that said so many different things that couldn't happen, that did happen, and golf was one of the things that led the way as far as the sports worlds go. And I go back to what Jay Monahan said, and I think he said it best, and he said it early on. He said that, look, we've got to learn to live with the coronavirus. It's not going away anytime soon, and we've got to evolve as an organization and as a sport so that we can start to live as normal as quickly as possible, but as safely as possible. And when you look at that, you know, the naysayers were saying none of this was going to happen, that, you know, we weren't going to have a national champion. We did last night in football, in college football. So, look, we're starting to get there. Baby steps are definitely being taken, and it is a step in the right direction. And as Jimmy said, a step towards normalcy. All of that is welcome and should be welcome across the sports world with open arms for sure.
Trip, baby steps.
It felt like tempered. It felt like tempered good news when we heard the announcement of the patrons being in limited capacity at Augusta National. But I think it was even more good news when you found out that the drive, chip, and putt and the Augusta National Women's Amateur was going to be played. I think that was a big question mark moving forward, and I'm glad that was answered today.
Well, that's a great point, Paige, because those two events are so widely celebrated, especially by youngsters in the game. The Augusta National Women's Amateur was such a huge success, Jaime, just a few years ago when we saw it for the very first time. How much do you think that adds to the women's game? How important is it to have this event back on the calendar? It
absolutely was missed last year. It's just a sense of progress and more, you know, sort of a sense of women putting their stamp on the game in a higher profile way. And to have it back, I think, is a nice statement, a nice, you know, marker in 2021 that women are back in terms of being at the top of the headlines in golf.
It's going to be a tough act to follow, though, Jaime, what we saw in Anwa a couple of years ago. But Trip, honestly, I mean, you know, to be completely frank about this, many organizations in golf find themselves in the position of having to kind of follow the dollar. And the reality is that Augusta National, thankfully, doesn't find themselves in that position, and they can do what they think is right. How do you see this?
Absolutely. I mean, that is a wonderful point, and that's what makes this organization unique in the world of sports is they don't need it, and they do things based on what they feel is correct at the time, and usually, almost always, I've noticed they get it right. And I think this is right. If they would have said, hey, we're going to come out with a full complement of fans, they understand they couldn't do that. You know they want to do it, But I think your point about the fact that it's not a financial decision with them. They could be fine with Masters without patrons for a long, long time. They're not hurting financially in that regard. So again, I think that does play a factor in this. But again, that organization is one of the one that all the sports world looks to in different ways. And again, they're leading the way, and golf is leading the way, and that makes me proud.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about allowing patrons as well at the Augusta National Women's Amateur and Drive, Chip, and Putt. I know it's inspiring to be there as a participant, but I think it's even more inspiring to be able to perform and get that actual response from the patrons on the ground. It was part of the reason why I wanted to turn professional, was playing in front of people and getting that kind of crowd reaction. So I'm certain that all of those young people that will be participating in those couple of days leading into the Masters will be just as excited to be performing in front of some patrons there as well.
It's a question that we've been asking for many months now. When will we see patrons return to the Masters and fans of the PGA Tour? This is certainly a step in the right direction, guys. Thank you so much for your thoughts, as always.